Hi everyone, so I'm talking about how to make money in the middle of nowhere in the southwest of France. I've just spoken about how I became an auto-entrepreneur, a freelance worker, um, working for myself. And my first job working for myself was to be a yoga teacher, and I had to then organise my own venues because I didn't have a venue in my own home. Well, actually I did, but for a very short space of time in the yurt in the garden teaching yoga. What destroyed that was the moles coming in and making little piles underneath my floor, and I didn't have a hardwood floor, so they were just coming up and stopping my lovely yoga surface that I created with my family. It wasn't flat anymore, so I just kind of scrapped that idea and looked for a hall or two. And that was actually quite hard to achieve. I went to many different halls in the area. I started off with staying very local, and they said, well, actually in Montgaillard de Salise, our hall doesn't have heating and it's a concrete floor, so it's really cold. So that wasn't going to work in the winter time, and I wanted something that I could do year round and keep on flowing with. Then I went to the next town along, Man, and they have a campsite there, and they had this lovely little veranda space, or they call it a veranda, but it's actually enclosed with glass walls, and they had a bit of heating in there, and they had a nice terracotta tile floor with nice views of the surrounding campsite. So I was quite chuffed with that, and I did kind of a trial 2 sessions there, because I was waiting on La Mairie to permanently accept me in that space, and that was going to take a really long time. And then it didn't work. It was too small, and everyone was so crammed in. I'd managed to advertise it quite well, and I couldn't really have more than one slot a week. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to scrap you for now and try something else. The Mairie of Man tried to give me a different hall, but it was in the back of the hotel, Hôtel de France, and it was really dark, smelt weird, and there wasn't really any natural light, horrible tiles, really dim lighting. Everything was like really old-fashioned and brown, and I just didn't have the right vibe at all for teaching yoga. And for me, the right vibe means a lot to the people that are coming and to me teaching. We want to enjoy it. So what I did find was Tuy was first, and that's not very far from here, near a lovely lake. And in the village centre they had a very big hall with wooden floors and a little kind of stage in the corner. It was like an L-shaped room. So this kind of sounds good, but as time wore on, the more classes that I did there, I found that one, the cleaner wasn't doing their job very well, and the floor was pretty gross and I'd have to sweep it every time. Number two, I'd turn up and they had these really heavy metal tables and loads of plastic chairs everywhere, and I'd have to spend ages putting everything to the sides. And because they were so heavy, I didn't want to drag them too far. And then we ended up having a very weird, long, thin hall to work with. And then the next thing was that when it got cold in the winter around Christmas time, the heating was incredibly noisy. And I was almost like having to raise my voice just so that my students could hear me, and I didn't really like that. The lighting wasn't easy to make more dim for relaxation, and it was those horrible kind of neon flashing lights. Most people can't tell that they flash, but for me it's like not a very nice kind of light. And also after a while there started to be more flies, and I was like swatting them away while I was doing my postures, and I was like, oh my god, this will not do. And the other thing that came up with that is there's a guy that came once a month who's actually a tapissier, which is an upholsterer, and he loved my classes, And I found out that he was able to, when he hired that hall for 2 days in a stretch, he just got it for free, just like that. And I had to pay €70 for a trimestre. And I was like, hang on a minute, why am I different to him? Okay, I'm faire vivre le village, so you kind of bring to life the village, which is what they said. Oh, it's great, you've got all these activities going on in our village, and yet I had to pay for it and he didn't. So that ended up being about €7 per class. So, and I was charging €7 per person per session for a drop-in. So it was like one person wasn't paying me every time they came. That's how I kind of saw it in my head. And then the other hall was in Monsonès, which again is probably about 15 minutes drive from here, a bit less. And that was above the Secretariat's office, in a room in the mairie itself. It had lovely deep red walls and wooden kind of varnished halfway up the wall, and nice kind of varnished, very clean floor, 2 proper radiators, and lovely windows all the way around that I could kind of open up with shutters. Very kind of traditional building, but very nicely done. And the lady who ran it was amazing. She'd turn on the heating for me before I came, and opened the windows for me. It's brilliant. She was in fact one of my students. She came to my other class so that she could get away from where she works, and she came to Tuy. And but the only downside to all this in that particular venue was that the salle, the hall, was pretty small, and I could only fit in 5 or 6 students maximum with me at the front. So for me, that wasn't a place where I could grow my membership or grow my students, because it was too small for that. So when it came to paying at the end of each trimestre, they said I didn't have to pay beforehand, I could pay at the end. With Tuy, I had to go to Salis du Salat, Trésorerie, the financier, the finance building, and they had sent over the information about me, and then I just turned up and said, oh, my name's Johanna Naum Claudel, je viens pour payer pour les cours de yoga, and then she gave me this slip, and I basically just gave my debit card and paid for it just like that. Whereas with Monsonès, I went along with my checkbook and I paid her at the Secretariat's mairie office. So that was done differently. And actually, because that's when I started getting unwell and I had to miss some classes and I didn't have a cover teacher, and this lovely lady kind of knew what was going on a bit with me, she actually was able to reduce the total cost for me by quite a bit, and that was really, really nice of her. So basically the 3 classes I wasn't able to teach, she took those off the final cost. So that was really, really brilliant. So that might be something that I try again in the future, but I think I'd be really careful, even more careful, to choose the right hall, with a mairie that kind of I feel comfortable working with, that's, well cleaned and the right size, the right kind of heating, the right kind of lighting. And since then I found some lovely halls in Saint-Giron, which is 25 minutes drive away from me, but there are lots of yoga teachers there already. But maybe because the halls themselves are just kind of almost purpose made for teaching yoga, you'd have to, it's probably worth it if you can get kind of 10 students every time you go and you set up so they pay for the year or they pay for the trimestre instead of drop-in or whatever. It could be worth me driving all that way and maybe having 2 classes in one day instead of 1. So then you're staying there for 2 classes and not just 1. So anyway, that's something to ponder on and think about for the future when I'm much more well. Because at the moment, I can't even do yoga for my own benefit. So the next job that I did was selling at a market stand that I set up myself. So that is the next video coming up now.